You might think Command got nerfed in the new edition, and it did, but it also got a huge buff. It's an amazing crowd control spell available across multiple classes from level 1, but most DMs and players use it wrong, because Command also has the potential to be one of the highest damage dealing spells in the game. In today's deep dive, I'll show you how to use Command tactically to its greatest advantage instead of just defaulting to an average option. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Timothy, though some people do call me Tim. I've been DMing for almost 30 years and currently run 7 weekly games of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. I also consult with DMs on how to improve their games and try to share what I can here on YouTube for the same purpose. If improving your game is something that you're into, then consider subscribing and following along. When D&D 2024 came out and Command was restricted to just the options in the book, I was disappointed but also relieved. Disappointed, of course, for the loss of creative options, but relieved that I wouldn't need to tell players that monsters don't actually usually need to go to the bathroom quite as badly as all that in the middle of combat. But regardless, given how good Command is, I did not see a dip in its use, especially given the buffs that removed language and creature type restrictions and allowed for more direct, dangerous options. But I did notice an interesting habit. Probably 9 times out of 10, players and sometimes even DMs tell their targets to grovel, even though it's not always the best option. Don't get me wrong, advantage on all melee attacks is really nice, especially as icing on top of the, by the way, you don't get an action cake. Cake. Anyway, but let's give Command a quick review and break down when it is or is not a good idea to leave your opponents groveling. Command has a respectable 60-foot range and targets one opponent for each level of the spell slot used to cast it. You get a wisdom saving throw or you suffer one of the 5 chosen effects. As mentioned, there's no longer any creature type or language dependency, so any target is fair game. Even ones that are immune to charm can be forced into acting the way you want them to with Command. And you can now issue commands that are directly harmful to the target, which you couldn't in 2014's 5th edition. In all cases, the effect doesn't occur until the target's next turn, which is important to our decision, because the creature spends its action economy doing what it's told, unlike most of the commands that I issue to my kitty cat co-stars. Anyway, you have, as mentioned, 5 options. Approach, which makes you move by the shortest and most direct path to reach the caster, and end your turn if you manage to get close enough. Drop makes you drop what you're holding and do nothing else. Flee has you moving away by the fastest available means. Grovel, as mentioned, makes you drop prone and do nothing else. And Halt has you guessed it, halt, stand there, stay in place, and do nothing else. So with all these options, why does Grovel get all the love? I do get it, it's a reliable and predictable option. Regardless of where they are in the initiative, after their turn, you get a full round of attacking with advantage if you're within 5 feet of them. Which, if you have a melee heavy group, might seem pretty tasty. But it depends on who acts next. If your target is up next and you're looking to boost melee damage, then it could indeed be the best option. But what if they just acted before you cast the spell on them? Or they act after all of your melee crew? Do you really want to batter at them for a full round without advantage and then have them drop prone just to need 1 hit more to knock them off, wasting another person's turn to do so? And do you really want to nerf all of your ranged attacks in order to boost your melee crew? Let's talk about your other options. It's often said in D&D that the best defense is a good offense. Killing foes prevents all the damage that they could deal. But sometimes a good defense is just that, a good defense. The drop command gives you the option to prevent damage and still leaves you open to laying the beat down. As a player, this works great on humanoid opponents or other weapon-using monsters, especially because monster stat blocks don't always use the same kind of damage die for their attacks. So sometimes disarming a longsword can reduce damage by a lot more than a single D8. As a DM, this is most potent against magic weapons that are causing trouble. In fact, it's best if you can disarm them in a fashion that allows another monster to grab up that weapon and run off with it, giving you another objective in your fight. Stop thief! On top of kill them all. Even if they're functionally the same thing. It'll add tension. Though sometimes players hate chasing after their opponents, which is one reason why the flee command might not be so popular. But players don't always hate these runners if they're the one causing the running. Mostly because opportunity attacks, especially in a group with a rogue in it, are awesome. Mathematically, opportunity attacks are actually so good that they make approach and flee options superior to Grovel for increasing melee damage. An extra attack, except against a truly hard-to-hit opponent, is superior to advantage on your current attacks. At least until you're making 3+ attacks in a round, and even then, marshals have more methods for granting themselves advantage than ever before. Topple, Vex, and the Rogue's steady aim definitely spring to mind. The problem, of course, comes down to positioning and timing. If your target just went in the initiative order, or will act after your melee crew has a chance to get into position, then flee is a good option to finish the fight faster by adding extra damage to the board that would not otherwise be there. But wait, there's more. Sorry, I always wanted to say that. If your opponent has no ranged attack, then flee also puts them out of position and potentially prevents 2 rounds worth of damage dealing instead of only 1. So, extra damage and 2 rounds of crowd control instead of 1? What's not to love? Well, one flaw aside from initiative dependence and positioning is that flee doesn't cause enemies to run through dangerous situations unless that's their only option, which is where approach comes in, because it specifies that you approach by the shortest and most direct route, which means not only can you get a round of opportunity attacks as they leave your melee crew, but after they've failed their save, you can stand on the other side of a fiery hazard or fly off the edge of a cliff, and they will follow you, no matter the consequences. There are so many times, for instance, when the ability to fly combined with the command spell can lead to sudden and ugly consequences for your opponents. Meanwhile, perhaps the least used option remains, but it still has its place. Because one of the other reasons that you might use Grovel is to prevent an opponent from moving out of hazardous terrain or blender type spells. But if that effect is also harmful to your melee crew, then you're shooting yourself in the foot. Disadvantage on ranged attacks when they're burning in the fire? No thanks. That's when Halt becomes the preference. Leave them standing in your ally's moonbeam or the wall of fire, or laugh at them while they pickle in a pit of acid that your barbarian shoved them into, all while plucking at them with spells and ranged weapons from safety. End of video survey time. Was this useful? Would tactical breakdowns of other spells be something that you'd like more of? And is there a spell in particular that you see people struggle with? Let me know in the comments. If you're determined to up your game and improve your tactics, then maybe check out the video that's coming up so you can master opportunity attacks and the advantage they can give you. And consider signing up for my newsletter where you can get weekly advice and inspiration. In the meantime, here's my cats being cats, and definitely not listening to my commands.